Well, it seems somebody has figured out that I stole his chair, and he'd like it back. So, welcome back. And here's the bad boy. And yes, he is a bad boy. He went out on Wednesday night, well, 6 o'clock Wednesday, and didn't come back until about 4 o'clock Thursday morning. Middle of the night, outside my bedroom window, screaming to be let in, because, naturally it's all my fault, right? And then he was looking around for love, as he is today, but he was also snubbing me. He needed love because he had been locked out. He was snubbing me because he had been locked out. You're crazy. You are just crazy. Go ahead, look at them. Let them see what a crazy cat looks like. Fortunately, he only does this once a year. He burns it out of his system, and then he sticks around close like a good boy. But believe me, that one time a year is an absolute nightmare. And it's the idea of going to bed when my cat is still out gallivanting is very, very unpleasant. I don't sleep well. And of course, I'm up all the time, sticking my head out the window and out the door and wherever and calling him, and he's ignoring me, aren't you? And so I'm always glad when he comes home and he's through with this. And I hope that's what we're looking at now, because as you can see, he's happy to be home. He likes being at home. This is good. This works for him. But as for everything else, who knows why he does what he does? Who knows why you do what you do? I don't know. Okay, we are back to escaping 2020. And today I thought we would talk about finances and a very particular area of finances, and that is food. So, when we get back, hey baby. All right, yes, I know. Well, it looks like he may be here for a while. He's definitely interested in getting attention. The reason I wanted to talk about food is starting in December of 2022, the government made some cutbacks to the food stamp program. They had made some increases during the pandemic, and these were always intended to be temporary. But here's the thing. You give somebody an extra $100, $200 in their food stamps every month, they're not going to look at it as extra. They're going to spend it, they're going to buy food, and then when you pull the plug, they're not going to see this as you are taking back the extra that they shouldn't have gotten in the first place. They are going to see it as you are taking back their food stamp money. And I get that, because people who are on food stamps are low income, and these are not people who have the options that more privileged people have in terms of being able to look at this and say, well, maybe I'll spend it on food, or maybe I won't. No. If you're giving them an extra couple $100 worth of food stamp money, they're going to buy an extra couple $100 worth of food every month. So this has been difficult. 2 days ago, a man I know, he worked at one of the grocery stores that I frequent. He doesn't work there any longer. He is disabled, and he's now in a wheelchair. He was getting over $200 a month in food stamps. I don't know how much exactly. What he said to me was over $200, which leads me to believe it was the lower end of $200. Because the way people think of this is if they say over $200, they're talking $220, $230. If they're getting $280, they're thinking, ooh, it's close to $300. So that's where I get that idea from, and they cut him back to $23 a month. Now, that's like, he lost 90% of his food stamp money. And $23 a month, I think we can all agree, is not enough money to keep anyone fed. I cannot keep Audie in treats for $23 a month. I cannot do it. Each little package of cat treats is like $5. Sometimes I can price shop them, get a little better, but in general, $5 for a little 3-ounce package of treats. And believe me, he'll go through a half a dozen of those in a month, and that's $30. So, and that's just treats. That's not his cat food. If I can't feed my cat for $23 a month, I have no idea how the state expects this man to feed himself for $23 a month. And the reason that I want to talk about this in the context of escaping 2020 is this is directly related to 2020, to the pandemic. These benefits were increased during the pandemic to help people get over the chaos of what was going on economically. Prices were going up. Oh, by the way, they're still going up. We are, 13 point something percent higher this year in terms of grocery costs than we were the same time last year. And that's a significant increase. So no, it's not your imagination when you've gone into the grocery store and you've said, oh my God, they want $7 for a dozen eggs. That happened to me the other day. I looked at that and said, $7 for a dozen eggs. What am I buying here? Have I just sort of picked up the wrong package of eggs? Because the last time I remember looking at egg prices, it was around half that. Odd little things. Water. Bottled water. I was getting a 6-pack for $1.50 at Walmart, and bang, all of a sudden it's $2.98. It's literally doubled in price. So, yeah, the prices are escalating and people's ability to buy this food is decreasing. Now, the reason it hits our population harder than many other populations is because older people on fixed incomes, well, when you're on a fixed income, you're hit harder by any kind of price increase, be it inflation or, in this case, the price increases are due to other factors, and we'll get into that in a bit. But still, if your income is fixed and stable, a price increase comes along, you don't have the ability to cope. It's not as if you can just say, oh, I'll work a few hours of overtime and that'll pay for the dozen eggs. No. So older people are hit hard. People on fixed incomes are hit hard. However, before I get off on the look how bad we have it, I do want to point out that we, meaning our generation, those of you who are roughly my age, have it a lot easier than younger people do. And the reason for that is most of us actually know how to cook. We can go into a grocery store, buy raw ingredients, bring it home, and turn it into a chicken pot pie. We don't have to go into the freezer case and get ourselves, whatever the chicken pot pie, I don't know the brand of chicken pot pie. I'm sure there's like a brand that's famous for chicken pot pie. I do not know it. But we don't have to do that. We can make our own. We can make a lot of food from scratch. And I remember a video not too long ago when I was talking about making a cake from scratch. And some of our viewers were like, well, what does that even mean? Because that's the only way they know how to make a cake. You get your flour and your sugar and your eggs and your butter, and there's your cake. The idea of making a cake from a mix is alien to them. Good for them. They are going to get a cheaper, tastier cake than anybody who is addicted to Duncan Hines. But that's an advantage our generation has. We do have the skill to economize in the area of grocery shopping if this is what we choose to do or this is what we need to do. So the fact is that we're not the worst hit by this. The group that is worst hit by this is very young mothers on public assistance, frankly, because they're not teaching them to cook anymore in the homes. They're not teaching them to cook anymore in the schools. So, yeah, they are the captive market of prepackaged foods. But I do think we ought to take a look at this, at some ways that we can economize on our grocery bills. And it's not just a question of maybe we're not even going to be able to afford to buy groceries this time next year, although frankly, to be honest with you, that is the dilemma facing some of us. We may not be able to afford to buy groceries this time next year. But this isn't about being a prophet of doom. This is about offering you a little bit of practical advice that we can employ now. See, the thing is, the worst thing you can do to your diet is make sudden, drastic changes. If you are making sudden, drastic changes to your diet for any reason other than, your doctor saying you have 3 weeks to live, you're going to be in trouble. If you want to make changes to your diet, if you want to do it to lose weight, to eat a more healthy food, whatever your goal is, the best way to do it is small, incremental changes, because sudden, drastic changes not only don't work, but they produce that sort of backlash. You get up one morning and say, well, that's it. I'm cutting all carbs and all sugars out of my diet, and I'm never eating a cupcake again as long as I live. And 4 days later, you are at the bakery buying a box full of cupcakes because you're feeling deprived. And we've all done that. We've all been there. So, and don't say you haven't, because I know you have. We've all been there. If we feel we're deprived, if we feel we are giving up things we don't want to give up, we will fight back. We really will. So incremental changes, small changes, are where we can have an impact on this. So what I am going to suggest is that all of us, regardless of your financial situation or your dependence on prepackaged food, whatever it is, I don't care who you are, how you're eating, take 1 day a week, just one, and make up your mind to have a low-cost meal 1 day a week. And when I say a low-cost meal, I'm talking about dinner, because that's usually where we spend money. Now, I've talked about this in the context of chicken livers, of all things, because I actually like chicken livers. It was something that I grew up on, and my grandmothers were actually pretty good cooks. One of them was not. So yeah, chicken livers. Chicken livers cost about $2 a pound. I am in South Central Pennsylvania. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this is farm country. Chicken livers here in my area are probably less expensive than they are in New York City. However, they are probably more expensive than they are off in Kansas or wherever chicken raising country is. I really don't know. I'm from the city end of this sort of farm community. But $2 a pound is a very good price, especially for an extremely nutritious food like chicken liver. Not everybody is going to join me in a chicken liver meal. Not everybody can. Chicken livers, by the way, are high in cholesterol, and not everybody can do that. I get to do it because my doctor over-medicates me in terms of the cholesterol meds. She watches my cholesterol like some crazy mother hen, and She's always tweaking it. The medication's constantly tweaking. Just, we can get it better. We can get a little better. So it's like, yeah, I can eat all the chicken liver I want because my doctor's dosing me on cholesterol medication anyway. If I eat no chicken liver, I'm taking the meds. If I eat a ton of chicken liver, I'm taking the meds. But yeah, it's not to everybody's taste. But everybody does have something they like that we traditionally think of as low-cost meals. My stepfather loved meatloaf. Oh, gosh, he loved meatloaf. You could offer him a steak, you offer him a meatloaf, he would take the meatloaf and he would run away with it so nobody else could take it from him. That was what he liked. It's our comfort food, and comfort food for most of us tends to be low-cost meals. A friend of mine, when he was young, his father didn't do a lot of cooking, but his mother was sick and she was in the hospital a lot. And when his father would make dinner, he would take a package of egg noodles, throw it in a pot, boil it up, take some American cheese, just sliced American cheese, break it up, stir it into the pot with a little milk, and then throw breakfast sausage in with it. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's a strange meal. Thing is, I brought that recipe home to my own family, and they loved it. They were crazy about it. That was one of the things they would beg for. You know, oh, is Sue cooking? Oh, make that meal with the egg noodles. They loved it. So you can eat well and eat inexpensively because pasta, some cheese, and some breakfast sausage, no, it's not going anywhere near the big fat roast chicken or, the nice thick sirloin steak. So I think that's something we should do. I think we should just cut back. It's going to help us because these prices are not going to stop going up. As I said, it goes right back to the pandemic, and it's not just inflation. The war in Ukraine has interrupted wheat supplies around the world because they have wheat harvest in that area that is exported. There was avian flu that impacted chicken and egg production. So those prices have gone up. And these things have nothing to do with 2020, additional factors. They have nothing to do with inflation. The 2020 factors are our economy came to a virtual standstill for a good 3 to 4 months of 2020. And that means we were looking at anywhere from 25 to 35% reduction in our gross domestic product. We were not working, we were not producing, we were just all sitting around wearing masks saying, oh, pandemic is here. We were also receiving government benefits, and you got the government benefits whether you needed them or not. They just sent you COVID checks. I think they sent out 2 COVID checks to everyone, country, not income dependent, which frankly struck me as odd at the time. But that's a lot of money that went out, and we're looking now at recovering from this. So yeah, that's what I mean when I say major impact of 2020. We are paying now for this. So for those of you who have already suffered this decrease in food stamps, I realize that, what we are looking at as an exercise in frugality, as a hedge against the inflated food costs that we are going to continue to face, you are all looking at as an absolute, utter necessity. And what I would say to you is, let's just go back to the way our grandmothers did things. Let's take a look at getting a 20-pound package of potatoes, a bag of potatoes. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt to peel potatoes and boil them and mash them and so on. And yes, it's so much easier to use instant mashed potato flakes. but the difference in cost is amazing. Also, frankly, the difference in taste is amazing too. And I'll go with the regular potatoes any day. But let's look at getting a bag of potatoes. Let's look at getting a bag of rice. I'm not a fan of white rice, so I throw that in, full disclosure, not white rice crazy. But I do love wild rice. Just these random grains, and it's like, oh, look, this is rice, and no, it isn't. I'm not sure what it is, but I like it. I like wild rice. Beans, oh, yes. Beans, a bag of beans is cheap. You soak them in the pot overnight, and you throw in a little brown sugar and molasses and bake them in the oven, and voila, Boston baked beans. Let's go back to our grandmother's recipes. And again, all I'm suggesting is we do this 1 day a week. If it works out for you, try 2 days a week. Instead of just, oh, let's do the egg noodles and the breakfast sausage on Fridays and that's the end of it. Maybe the next month add in the rice and bacon or whatever you want to do with your rice. Or, the mashed potatoes and vegetables. I should throw that out too. Did you ever go to a nice restaurant and notice the vegetables they feed you? And I say a nice restaurant because at a nice restaurant, you're going to get really cheap vegetables. I don't know what it is about them, but good restaurant, they're going to serve you broccoli or carrots or cauliflower, and those things are dirt cheap in the grocery store. If you want a vegetable that's really good for you, grab yourself a bag of carrots. And if you find that it's a lot of work to boil up carrots do take a long time to cook. Long time to boil up your carrots at night for dinner. Take your carrots, cut them all up, peel them, cut them. You don't have to peel them. I don't peel my carrots, frankly. I just scrub them down and slice them because I want the carrot peelings. I read somewhere they're more nutritious. I don't know if it's true. I know I read that they were, therefore I think it's true, so I think I'm eating healthier. So who knows? Maybe it's all in my mind. But get yourself the carrots, and some Saturday morning just haul out the big stew pot and boil up that entire bag of carrots, and when they are almost done, take them out, throw them in some cold water, dump them into plastic bags, and freeze them. And there's your fresh out of the freezer baggie full of, oh, I can microwave this in 5 minutes. There you go. The fact is that we've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from real food. We've gotten away from cooking our own food, where we have control over what we're putting onto the food and therefore what we're putting into our bodies. And we are paying an absolute premium for the privilege. So we need to take a look at this, all of us, whether it's a financial necessity or not, because it may well be, and start economizing a little. And this is one easy way to do it. As I say, we're seeing impacts from 2020, but the problem is the impacts are not just one and done. The impacts are cascading. The impacts are interfacing with other world events like the war in Ukraine or the avian flu that's impacting chicken and eggs. And we will continue to. That's just, Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and at the worst possible time. We will be seeing this. And it would behoove us to start taking a few minor steps while we can do it pleasantly, easily, without causing ourselves hardship, and be prepared for what is next to come. For those of us who don't have a choice, well, carrots, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. I don't like Brussels sprouts. I find it hard to. I have a brother who adores them, so it's not like I think nobody likes Brussels sprouts. Just I don't. He always ate my Brussels sprouts for me. Carrots, cauliflower, broccoli, these wonderful, nutritious vegetables are so inexpensive. Consider them. Consider stretching your meal out with fillers. That's what I've always thought of them as. Carbohydrates, rice, starches, potatoes, things like that, where you can use them to stretch a meal, and it's not unpleasant. Rice can be very tasty. Potatoes can be very tasty. Beans, oh my, ask anyone from Boston, they can be very tasty. So for those of us who have to economize, check out the fresh produce. It's usually cheaper, but what you need to make sure of, and I have to throw this caveat out there, because in the realm of fresh produce, we end up throwing a lot away and wasting a lot. Make sure you have budgeted the time to prepare your fresh produce. Parboil it and freeze it, or cook it up for dinner that night, because having fresh produce, if you're not going to take advantage of it, just means you're going to be throwing food away. And we Americans as a nation throw away an absolutely alarming amount of food every year. We really do. Yes, okay, yes, all right, fine. I know, this hand didn't pet him, so we gotta come over and get pet from this hand too. He's very picky, aren't you? Yes, you're very picky. So that is what I have for you today. I know this was not a pleasant topic. Unfortunately, for many of us, this is not a choice we have. This is a necessity. We have to start looking at this. He has just knocked my pen onto the floor, and the only reason he is not chasing it is because I am petting him. But there we go. He's got my pen. And it's going into his pen stash. I'm going to have to follow him around to see where that is, because he steals my pens all the time, and I'll find this entire cache of pens somewhere. I don't know what it is he finds so fascinating about them. And this one just went under the rug. Okay. I lost my train of thought. All right, anyway, I know for some of us this is not a luxury chat. This is a necessary chat. For others, yes, we can afford to do this and take our time and just throw in a meal here and there. Who knows? At the end of the year, we might find that most, if not all, of our grocery shopping is very, very frugal. But let's give it a try. Let's see if we can do a little to protect ourselves against the impact of this rapidly increasing food cost situation. All right, that is what I have for you today. In the comments, if you have quick, easy recipes with cheap ingredients, go on in. Remember, I shared with you my friend's egg noodles, cheese, breakfast sausage. How easy is that? I bet we've all got a recipe like that. And the funny thing is, most of those recipes are big hits with our family. So if you've got one of those, share it in the comments. If you have suggestions on good food, cheap, share it in the comments. All right, we're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope you all have an absolutely terrific day.